Bianca Peterson, and she will be discussing how to write a report using R Markdown.
Hi everyone, welcome back after the break. My talk might not be as amazing as those brownies, but I'll try to make it short. Okay, so I'm Bianca Peterson. I'm not related to Thomas Peterson, and I'm a postdoc at the Pharmaceutics Department at the Northwest University. And Conquest Analytics and Training is my new startup company trying to help researchers do their research more efficient, from data capturing to analysis, but nothing advanced yet. Okay, so today I'm going to do a technical talk on how to write a report using R Markdown. This is aimed at beginners, maybe intermediate, so please bear with me. So the first question is, why is this useful? So R Markdown documents are fully reproducible. You can weave together narrative text and code to produce elegantly formatted output. You can use multiple languages, including Python, R, and SQL. And you can choose from dozens of formats that's either static or dynamic, including HTML, PDF, MS Word, HTML5 slides, books, websites, and more. So how to do this? When you select to create a new file, you choose R Markdown, and then you have options either HTML, PDF, or Word. HTML is the recommended format because you can easily convert that to other file formats later on using Pandoc. And this will then create the .rmd R Markdown file. So once you choose that, you will, in the new file that's created, there will be a default YAML header that looks like that on screen, except without my information, of course. So you can add your title in inverted commas, author, date, and output. In this case, it's HTML because that's what we chose when we open the new file. And then here's an example of a customized YAML header. It's nothing advanced. For example, if you want to write your academic paper in Markdown, you can specify multiple authors like that. And instead of hard coding the date, you can use the sys.time function from R so that it can retrieve the date and time from your computer. And then with the output, you can specify additional output level options. And the important thing here is that it should be preceded by a 2-space indent, otherwise it will not render correctly. So in this case, I specified that I want to keep the raw text file together with the rendered PDF document, so I chose PDF as my output. And I also want to create a table of contents, so that's the TOC option there. So I'm going to go through the different parts of the file. So the first part was the YAML header. Next up is code chunks. So when you create code chunks, you use 3 backticks, and the code chunk also ends with 3 backticks. Most of the time it's located somewhere close to the escape button on most keyboards. And then next to the first 3 backticks, you specify rules, so within curly braces. So you see in this case, this is R code chunk. You can specify Python, for example, and a chunk name. In the beginning, I didn't do the chunk names really, but then when I had trouble rendering the file, I had to count the chunks and figure out which one was giving me the trouble, so I started naming my chunks. And the additional rules that you specify, you can either choose to display the code and the output and run the chunk, of course, or only display the output and not the code, or either run the code and display nothing. So there are several options available. And of course, this is just like normal R. You can use hash for the comments, and you can import your data, load your libraries, and plot your data. So I'm just giving a different example. If you want to display the output without displaying the code in your final document, which will be useful for a publication, for example, you specify echo equals false, so it will run the code but not display the code. So I created a very tiny data frame using my family's names and those ages are not necessarily correct. They aren't correct. I am 31 though, mine is correct. Okay, so some additional rules that you might want to use, as I mentioned. So tidy, we got this talk this morning, I think it was Gerard, about why tidy data is important. So you can also specify tidy equals true, and it will wrap long code so that it doesn't run off the page. As I mentioned, you can switch between different languages. In this example, it's the Hello World from Python. And then I'm giving you two options to insert figures. So the first option is to use exclamation mark, square brackets containing your caption for your image, and then in parentheses the path to your image. It's important that you add the extension, otherwise the image will not be added. The second example is to generate a figure from code, and you can modify the dimensions by specifying it in the rules. And then there are 4 different ways of inserting tables. I'm sure there are more, I'm showing you 4. So the first one is to generate it via code. And the second example is to manually create tables using Markdown syntax. So I'm not sure if you got a cheat sheet during the first coffee break, but the example was there. I just want to highlight that the colons specify the text alignment. So the first example will be left aligned, the middle one centered, and the right one will be right aligned. You can also use the cable function from the knit-r package or the pander function from the pander package. Then when you want to add text, I only showed like a few examples on the cheat sheet, and of course on the internet you will find a lot more. So you can do the headers, you can create block quotes. If you just want to do a normal paragraph between your code chunks, you just start typing like you normally would in a text editor. Then you can format text, you can italicize text or embolden them. I couldn't find anything for underline, so I threw in some HTML in there and it worked. So you can switch between R Markdown and HTML and it renders correctly. You can create unordered lists or numerical lists. And then, so the image on top is the way that it looks in my R Markdown file, if you want to hyperlink. And so this is the material I used to compile this presentation as well. And then finally, you might want to ask, okay, I wrote everything in Markdown, I'm used to working in R, but how do I get the actual PDF? So you need a tech for this. So for Windows users, it's MikTeX or MikTeX, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And for Mac users, it's TechLive. And then Linux users should use the System Package Manager. And then you click the knit button, or you can use the render command. The HTML file will be saved to the same directory where you created your Markdown file. And this was just a screenshot of what it looked like after I rendered this. So you will see the YAML header will do the title and the details, and there's my table of contents. I did need to add a / new page after my table of contents, otherwise the text started there at the bottom. I didn't like that. And so the images usually float by default. I don't know if you know this, but so all my images were floating on top of the page, and I saw some very difficult examples on how to fix that, but I found an easy one. So just after inserting my image, I did a / a space and a new line, and it put the image next to the text where it should be. Yeah, so that's it. Any questions?